Well, good morning, everyone. I'm so excited that you're here. I am a white female with long brown hair. Today I have a green blazer on over a solid gray shirt. And I've been asked to share our live captioners link. And the link is on the phone that I just turned off. One moment, please. But while I get that up and running, I just want to again thank you all for coming. I'm excited that you're here. To those who are working for the state, I want to wish you a very happy new year. We made it. We made it into fiscal year 24. And for those of you who may be joining me from MSU, go green. We're glad you're here. And anyone else, I'm just really excited that you're here. I'm excited to share some information with you today, and hopeful that you find it helpful as well. Let me get my link here a second for the real life captioners. All right, and that should be coming up shortly. And then I just wanted to let everyone know that the PowerPoint will be available to everyone after the presentation. And the questions that you may have for this morning, we're asking that you can share them at any time, and I will have set aside time at the end to answer them. So that link for the real-time cart captioning is mrs:/realtime text streamtext.net. All right, mrs:/realtime text streamtext.net. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this party started. I'm going to be real here. I've never done a presentation where I'm not having any interaction with the audience, so bear with me. I hope that I'm just going to assume things are going well for you and that you're enjoying being here, and we'll go from there. All right, so a little bit about me. I graduated from Michigan State University with the Rehabilitation Counseling Program. And after that, I worked in Grand Rapids at the MRS office for 3 years as a pre-ETS counselor. And I started the position that I have currently at Michigan State University in the fall of 2021. And the question that I have for us as we begin is one that I've been asked several times: are vocational disability services even needed for a post-secondary population? Spoiler alert, there's a whole PowerPoint after this that indicates my perspective on this, but it's a question that is often asked, I think, because a lot of people are making assumptions of what it takes to get a college degree and what it means for other skills in other areas. And so my hope is that today's presentation helps inform and fill in those blanks and helps ensure that you're aware of the value of vocational services with this population. As we all are aware, disability exists alongside competence, not in juxtaposition. It is something that exists in a full wide range of occupations and professional levels. It's not just something that impacts people at one level of professionalism. It's present throughout all of human identity and experience. So I invite you to keep that in mind through today's presentation, as well as your interactions with whatever caseload that you may have. My goals for today's presentation are that A, you leave this presentation feeling more aware of value in the vocational counseling for post-secondary population, and B, that you feel more prepared and empowered to engage with post-secondary settings as needed. Today's presentation is going to be in 3 major parts. The first part is going to review the Career Collaborative Partnership that is in place with Michigan State University. The bulk of today's presentation will be about vocational counseling insights from a post-secondary caseload perspective. And then I will end with establishing and enhancing connections and suggestions for partnering with post-secondary settings. And then because I also included some extra credits. Like I said, the PowerPoint will be available for everyone afterwards. And for those who would like additional information, I've included some academic resources and just some extra goodies at the end if you want to delve into the topic further. I also want to be transparent that I have only been in this setting for 2 years. I'm excited to continue learning. I am by no means a weathered expert in this, but it's an important topic to me, and I'm excited that you're here to learn with me today. So let's kick things off. We have the Career Collaborative Partnership with Michigan State University. It's been a partnership since 2017, and there are several components to that partnership. The first party is the Resource Center for Persons with Disabilities. That's the accommodations office on campus, primarily staffed with what are referred to as access specialists, who manage caseloads for providing students with academic accommodations. We also have the Career Services and Employer Relations, where students have access to that support all throughout enrollment, as well as 2 years post-exit. We also have support from the Rehabilitation Counseling Program staff, and of course, the support from MRS as well. So it's a really fantastic collaboration, and I'm thankful for my colleagues on both sides of this to make this happen. Up next on this screen is just a graph of enrollment in RCPD, meaning students who have disclosed and requested accommodations over time. We start here in the corner with 1974-1975 school year, and we see an enrollment number of 97 people disclosing disability and requesting accommodations. We scoot over to the school year of 2021-2022, and it's all the way up to 3,478. Obviously, there has been a huge expansion and movement of not only recognizing what disability encompasses, but also people who are willing to pursue college who in past years may not have felt able or have access to that decision. So we're excited to be a part of making the college experience more accessible, and excited to continue to contribute to an inclusive and accessible campus. And I also want to relay that this pattern is not unique to MSU. It has been seen throughout multiple universities and colleges throughout the nation, and it is not expected to slow down anytime soon. All right, so the part of Career Collaborative that involves my role, I have a photo on the screen with several name tags just to illustrate that, yeah, I'm kind of a not so much a secret agent, but I kind of go in both worlds here, and it's a kind of a unique role that I love. My presence on campus involves actually being housed in the office with RCPD, so I pull into work each day at MSU, even though I'm an MRS employee. And what my schedule can include is attending different career events, attending and contributing to different workshops, being asked to speak with different classes and groups and organizations, and also the opportunity to partner with different organizations on campus to ensure that accessibility is prioritized for different career events, and also making sure that the students who can benefit from vocational services are made aware of what those services are like. Examples of events include the new program that I'm piloting this semester with the organization Stride, where I'm helping students figure out a first-time work experience that's related to their field on campus, but also has some extra support for encouraging them to learn more about advocacy and accommodations. Next semester, I'm also going to be partnering with the physics department of all places. I'm laughing not because physics departments are funny, but because would never have predicted a natural collaboration on my part with the physics department. But truly, I'm very excited to be partnering with them with their efforts to make career resources accessible and helping their students navigate that. And I'm really excited that the nature of this role is there's always a lot up and coming, and there's always a lot of opportunities to partner with different groups, and I'm excited to be a part of that. So managing the caseload from the MRS perspective is I have my own unique referral process. So I have an embedded link here that's included on the slide, but it's also available to those who can go to the RCPD's website and learn more about what my role is. Oftentimes students are referred to that link from their access specialists that I mentioned earlier, but I've also received referrals from professors who've gotten to know me, who have students who they think could benefit, or from students who have just, gone searching for support in this area and stumbled upon the link. And yeah, I think it's been a really great and unique aspect of this partnership is having that availability to have an online referral process so that more people can be reached. My caseload itself is made up of undergraduates, non-traditional students, and alumni. So a wide range of people, needs, career interests, and experiences. Another unique aspect of my caseload is about 30% of those on my caseload are involved in a professional program or advanced degree, meaning med school, vet med, master's programs, or PhD programs. And also the vast majority have more than one diagnosis. All right, hey, we made it through the first part. On to the bulk. So vocational counseling insights in a post-secondary setting. Up here we have a screen with an image of a outline of someone's head with a magnifying glass and question mark. So one distinctive insight about vocational counseling in this setting is the barrier of unfamiliarity. And I recognize that it's a barrier for everyone, disability or no disability, right? No one knows what they don't know, but it's unique vulnerability for those with disabilities is for those who don't have or have very limited work history. That unknown data about their workplace stamina and workplace needs can impact our conversations about, well, what do you anticipate in work settings? How can we make informed decisions when you're new to it and not shaming you for being new to it? I also am really passionate about this aspect because I'm aware of the vulnerability that if they don't seek out supports, they may inadvertently be set up with employers who may or may not model appropriate facilitation of accommodations or accessibility, and they may internalize the dichotomy between them approaching work how they need to be productive, being seen as unprofessional or incompatible with professionalism. And that's one of my biggest goals in my role, is to make sure that people are aware of accurate insight of what they can contribute and how they can contribute, and making sure they're aware of their rights in the workplace setting so that they can have informed conversations with their employers about that. Next insight is communication and information preferences. So whenever I meet with someone new, one of the first things I ask them is how this role that I have provides a ton of information. What's helpful for you when sharing information or learning new information? Do you prefer several short meetings, one long meeting to get it out of the way? Do you benefit from additional processing time? Maybe some follow-up email summaries, visuals, topics ahead of time, etc. Now, most of the time, or I'd say about 50-50, that they don't always have an answer right away for this question. But why I like asking it is because it starts shifting their perspective of accommodations are just an academic thing, and start realizing and identifying their needs in conversations in settings outside of the classroom. I also take the opportunity to say, it's okay if you don't know, keep me updated as you learn those things and your preferences, because then that also helps them stay in the driver's seat of being aware of what they may need and benefit from. I also take the opportunity to ask them about their preferred terms for referring to their disability. I'm transparent that my organization requires that language, but not everyone identifies with that term. And I invite them to consider what would they prefer in our conversations. How do they view or perceive what's going on? Do they prefer the term diagnosis, condition, health issues, neurodivergence, challenges, whatever terms they're most comfortable with, meeting them where they're at? As we're all aware, disability can have a wide scope of how people identify with it. Some people are capitalizing it with a lot of pride and really see that as a strong part of their identity, and others have a lot more private and intent to keep it covered. And that's okay. I'm not here to say which one is better. I'm here to respect whatever part of the journey that they are on and helping them feel comfortable with wherever they're at. Right. The next insight that's unique to this post-secondary setting is helping students manage disability in a new setting with a new or shifted support system. Oftentimes, if they've been managing a disability for a while, it may have looked a certain way in their former settings. Maybe they were going home to a family that was taking care of all of the minute details of schedule management, transportation, and all these things. And now suddenly they're on their own in a college setting where they're realizing, oh, my disability impacts are a lot different, because now I'm the one in charge of making sure I have transportation and making sure that I can know which buildings are necessary for me to get to class on time and which ways to navigate and all of those things. It's also a time in people's lives when people are vulnerable to that onset of a new or additional disability. Now, we all know that everyone can experience the onset of a disability at any time, but with this population that, 16 to 24, 25, the vulnerability to additional mental health concerns in particular is very high, especially in a college setting. Finally, this is a population that is emerging into adulthood and sense of self. So maybe their perspective on their disability is shifting because they're now in charge of decisions that they weren't familiar with before or aware of. All right, the next insight. So a lot of vocational counseling in this setting that I've observed is helping people manage anxiety, uncertainty, and overwhelm. Now, again, this is not unique to this setting or this population. However, in this setting, with this population, there is a lot of expectation that they be managing it on the side, right? And because that disability is usually contributing to some kind of additional anxiety, uncertainty, or overwhelm. So while my role can connect them with resources to help manage that, I believe in my role as well as helping them facilitate an awareness of its impact on them, helping them observe their own bandwidth, their own threshold for tolerance of ambiguity and uncertainties, and helping them normalize that it's okay that they're feeling stressed out or overwhelmed in certain settings, and just stepping back to observe that, all right, well, it's not, maybe I'm not as available in the semester to do XYZ as I am in the summer because I have a lot more going on, and that's okay. It's not a failure on anyone's part. It's just a part of the juggling of what everything else that's going on. By having these conversations with these students, I'm also able to note gently any patterns of self-sabotage or imposter syndrome that on the surface might just look like reluctance to engage, but are often, in fact, I have found, an attempt to reach certainty faster than if they had stayed waiting in that ambiguity. An example would be if they cut out of an interview or skip an interview or even skip an appointment with me because they don't want to try. They don't want to risk messing up or trying hard and not getting what they would like. So I see my role as one that can help them identify when that happens, how to regulate, how to manage those concerns. And then upon graduation or exit from the academic setting, helping them explore supports, right? They often spend their times as a student immersing themselves in supports that are specific to that campus setting. So I use my role to help them reach out to make sure they have that continuity of care and supports waiting for them after graduation or exit, and then reframing what productivity looks like when you're in between jobs, helping them manage that ambiguity and uncertainty in that season of between. All right, well, it wouldn't be vocational counseling if we didn't have some career exploration, right? And as I said earlier, when I was laughing about the connection with the physics department, what business do I have telling people what to do with careers in how many majors? So many majors. Well, real talk, I'm not an expert in any of those, but what I am a trained professional in is laying down the train tracks for whatever train comes. So it often comes down to leaning into their personal expectations and interests and asking them to identify what's important to you in a future job and how does that align with the job that you've pictured in your head. Is the job that you've pictured in your head aligned with the jobs that are actually out there? Let's learn about it together. I recommend and support a lot of informational interviewing, a lot of connections with the campus experts who are in fact trained and available to offer expertise in these multiple jobs, and also making sure that they have their Handshake app downloaded. The Handshake app is something I mentioned that's specific to those with a .edu email address. So those of us who may not be working in college settings may be unfamiliar with it, but it operates kind of like a LinkedIn. I prioritize it because not only is it the way that colleges distribute information about career services, but it's also a way for the student to access information about employers and for employers to actively recruit them. All right, another insight about vocational counseling and with the post-secondary population is addressing the concept of success and feedback, right? There's a shift. In an academic setting, there are a lot of things that contribute to success that don't always match up to what correlates with success in a non-academic work setting. And I'm going to say this one sentence a couple times because it is so true. Ready? Here we go. The skills to successfully complete coursework in a specific field and the skills to be successfully employed in said field are a Venn diagram, not a circle. I'll say it again. The skills to successfully complete coursework in a specific field and the skills to be successfully employed in said field are a Venn diagram, not a circle. I have a quick example of this. So I have a student who can do the ins and outs of their anatomy textbook. They can name all of the different body parts. They are an absolute whiz, A student for sure in those areas, but recently discovered they hate touching other people, and they had hoped to go into a health science like physical therapy. Now, obviously, and unfortunately, no one is going to pay you to be an expert at reading textbooks. Now, if anyone is aware of a job like that, I'm not saying I wouldn't be open to that, as much as I love my current job. But also, I'm saying that the reality is someone can be academically successful and also needs to be made aware of what this looks like in the field, and making sure that their information is aligned with both. And part of vocational counseling in this setting means of affirming what strengths and skills they're discovering about themselves, while also gently leading them to a space where they're aware of what skills are going to be expected of them in the workplace. I also have some notes here about feedback, but in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. Now, all of us, I think, as vocational counselors and those, and even others who have joined us in the call, can be familiar with a job posting, right? There's often a list of expected qualifications and experiences of, well, who's going to be successful in this role? And I wondered to myself, how many of us have actually thought about that job candidate, the person seeking work? What traits would we want that person to have to be, and expect them to have to be successful in obtaining a job? I've included on this slide several suggestions, by no means an exhaustive list, although it is an exhausting list, of different skills that are expected of a job candidate. And the reason I post this list, and the reason I suggest the exercise of thinking through that list, is it might help you understand why post-secondary vocational counseling can be so important, because the skills to get a degree may or may not overlap with the skills needed to be a seeking job candidate. And so this next slide I have are suggestions for what I call job seeking accommodations. So that's that individualized support that's going to meet them where they're at and identify any areas of concern or difficulty, while exploring the areas of support that are available. And then as the vocational counselor, weaving together what supports are going to be necessary where, what to prioritize based on their input and insight, and then helping the student budget their energy and capacity, and being transparent about what's working and what's not in their journey to find a job. Now, lastly, I mentioned earlier that 30% of my caseload is students in professional or advanced degrees. And I wanted to include a slide here of what vocational counseling looks like in that setting, not because these advanced degrees set them apart or have additional value. I believe everyone on my caseload has value to contribute, and it's important to meet each person's where they're at with their needs. But I make a separate slide for the advanced programs because there are some unique needs involved. For many people, these are very intense, competitive programs. So there's a lot more minutia with the disability management that needs to be up to snuff so that they can be focused on engagement in their program and recognizing where that might catch them off guard with the disability management. So helping them think of the people when someone's running a marathon. It's very much like that. It's helping them figure out, okay, what got you this far? What can we do to make sure you can keep going? And recognizing that it's very important to be thinking much further ahead with this group, because the pacing is so intense and you want them to have access to the accommodations before the accommodations will be necessary, because often, unfortunately, they're going to be in environments that might be more hostile to access of accommodations. and the being evaluated in situations where if they're requesting accommodations, their competence might also be second guessed. So with a lot of my approach involves an OT right away to make sure that they're familiar with any kind of devices or suggestions that can help boost their participation and engagement so that they come to the table having problem solved and not giving the opportunity for those who might be overseeing their work to pinpoint them as incompetent because of their disability. All right, finally, I'd like to leave our vocational counseling insight section with the thought that it's not a group project, which, hey, who loves a group project anyway? Am I right? Nobody. But the point that I'm trying to make here is if I approach a student thinking that we're both in this together to help them get a job, I'm not going to be as effective as I am as if I make sure my goal is just to be a safe space to talk about that job and those decisions, right? If I, for example, am thinking it's a group project, I'm going to be personally frustrated and vexed when they don't show up for an interview, versus a space where we can observe and talk about what were you thinking leading up to this? What was going on for you? Being a space to talk about those decisions is so critical to getting to the underbelly of what's going on, that I think shifting this lens has been a definite game changer in my own role. All right, final stretch, people. Let's do it. Establishing connections with post-secondary settings. Now, I know a number of you have reached out to me with the hopes of connecting with post-secondary campuses near you and wondering what that looks like in the absence of a partnership that I have with my university. What can you do to engage them? The first thing I'd like to suggest is to consider the dual customer model. Those of you within MRS are very familiar with this because it's the model that suggests that, yes, the business is just as important as the customer. And when everyone wins, everyone wins. That's definitely a lens through which I see my work with MSU. So it's not just about meeting the students' needs, but offering to meet the campus where they're at, meeting the campus employees where they're at, making sure that what you're suggesting aligns with what they're identifying as needs. And then I have here on this page a list of different suggestions for ends. Now, it's my personal opinion that the best connections are the connections that happen within relationships, right? So if you know anyone working at a campus, start there. Build different personalities, different experiences, different cross sections of other kinds of connections are so important. And when you find someone that you click with, that's going to go far. So that would be my first thought. My second thought is if you're truly stuck with or unsure about where to start, these are some suggestions. You can obviously start with the Accommodations or Disability Services Office. There's also student affairs, student organizations or clubs. Sometimes universities will have testing centers where people can have a space set aside to take their tests. And oftentimes that is an accessibility accommodation, so that there you get that intersection of students benefiting from accommodations who might also be interested in accommodations for employment. There's also counseling centers, health centers, employer relations office, the alumni connections office. You can also attend career events and specific college departments. And then usually most post-secondary settings are going to have a contact person for federal recruiters for federal positions. So lots of different inroads to connecting with campuses. Now you've decided who you're going to connect with, and you're shaking in your boots because you realize, man, what can MRS offer if they already have all of these other things lined up? I got you. I got you. You just pull up this slide, print it, take it with you. Here you go. This whole list is different assets and values that MRS can bring to the table. That's your bottom dollar. All right. Now, depending on who you're talking to, if you're talking to someone a little bit higher up who may not have as invested of a perspective of the student benefit, these are your talking points. Ready? Here you go. Internship and employment outcomes. Every university has a way of tracking these and wants those numbers to be moving up because it's an indication that their institution is providing quality candidates for positions and that their degrees are taking them in successful areas. So by having extra support for those who might need employment accommodations, that's going to boost those numbers, right? Also with different movements and engagements with increasing DEI, disability, and diversity movements and campuses of wanting to be a space of belonging, many are curious and would like to have accessible career engagement if you bring it up from that perspective. And also this is going to make them too sweet. This is the gold. This is the good stuff. They don't have to write up a grant request to access you. You are a public support service. If they're not inviting you to their, holiday dinners after you share that information, I wouldn't believe it. You bring a lot of good to the table. Don't you forget it. All right. And then finally, if you're connecting with the staff who has more invested interest in the student's direct benefit, I would share the following. The vocational counselor from MRS is going to have a disability informed perspective on careers and employment. That's going to be gold to a student with a disability who's wondering how that's going to impact their career decisions. You can also provide testing for suspected disability. As mentioned earlier, this population is very vulnerable to the addition of or the learning of different diagnoses that may or may not come up during this time period. And the availability to provide testing for that is a huge benefit. Continuity of care, the fact that we are able to continue to provide services whether or not they're enrolled is a unique position, right? Like I said, most campus offerings are going to be insular in nature to the campus. We also provide benefits counseling and Schedule A letters. So lots of good stuff. Don't forget. All right. So part of building a partnership is, of course, getting the word out that you exist to have a partnership with. My suggestions range from virtually being able to contribute to any campus newsletters or social media campaigns. Having that online referral link I have found it to be so crucial because that's where students are most of the time, and that's where students are going to feel most comfortable sharing and initiating an interest in MRS services. Also, the suggestion to post your contact information within any websites or any willing departments page. In person, I mean, you can try hanging up flyers in different spaces. I think the last one is critical, offering a table at orientation events or career fairs. Even if they're not interested at that time, it plants a seed that this service exists. And I think that is golden, just as golden as someone being willing to engage in this service right away is everyone realizing, oh, this service exists. That means others are using it. Oh, let's normalize that. Let's be a part of the conversation where we're all aware that employment accommodations exist because employees do best in an environment where accommodations are available. All right, and now different services, I recognize that not everyone has a personality where they're comfortable presenting or speaking at different events. So one thing I thought of after putting this together that I didn't include in this text was maybe you can partner with your B&D resource person. So for those of you attending today outside of MRS, B&D is our sister organization of the Business Network division, and they have caseloads that manage different businesses instead of individuals to encourage a more inclusive and accessible environment. And they have different curriculum and access to different kinds of presentations that could be helpful for you as you build your partnership with the post-secondary setting. You can tag team with their career services to make current events accessible, as well as suggest new events. And you can also build on what they say that they need if they want more disability etiquette training or if they would like more internships. My final thought for you is all good things take time. Not every idea is going to be good. Not every good idea is going to yield results right away. I can give you a whole PowerPoint of things that I've tried that didn't go well. That wasn't today's PowerPoint, but I'm just saying it's available if you're interested. right? Be flexible with yourself and your partners as you attune and adjust course for students' benefits, because the students will benefit from you being there, I promise. Any questions?
At this time, there's not, but feel free to post in the question and answer section, and then we'll make sure we can get it out to Tanya.
Well, I also want to make sure maybe you're not in a position where you can quick type up a question, or if you think of something later, this is my contact information. My email is adamst22@michigan.gov, or if you're in the Lansing area, stop over at a campus. I'm office 194 in Bessie Hall. You're welcome to come say hi. For those of you with transition caseloads who might have students thinking about whether or not they'd like to go to college, or if they're considering Michigan State University, please feel free to share my name with them. I'm happy to introduce myself and talk a little bit about what accessing accommodations looks like in this setting, and be a familiar face for them to welcome them in when they come.
All right, Tanya, we've got a couple questions.
Sure.
All right. One was, did you say you were sending out the PowerPoint to us?
Yes.
Right. And Virginia said, wonderful job, and we'll hang on to your presentation and be in touch about a potential future presentation.
Excellent.
Right.
Well, I'm so glad that those of you who are here today have made time to do so. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I love my job. I know I made the joke earlier about if there was a job that could pay you to read textbooks, I'd take it. But in all honesty, I do love this role, and I love both my teams as well.
Okay, there's no other questions right now.
All right, that's perfectly fine. I know it's a Friday, beginning of the new fiscal year. People have a lot of things to do. I don't mean to take up anyone's time, but if you do think of anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to connect with you and discuss anything that you're interested in learning more about. Yeah, thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. And,
okay, let's see, we got a couple others. One just said, thank you for the information and presentation.
Yeah.
Do you assist non-students?
Oh, great question. Yes, there are people who have either graduated from MSU and still think of MSU as a convenient spot to connect. And I'm happy to open them. I also work with students, or I think of grad students because they're both students and employees. It's kind of a gray area. There's also and I have another MRS colleague who manages the caseload of those who want to be employed at MSU, and not necessarily having like an MSU degree. So, but I'm always welcomed. I always welcome contact with anyone who's interested in services, and making sure they're partnered with the right counselor to make sure that their vocational goals are prioritized.
Hi. We just have a thank you, great information.
Excellent.
And another thank you.
Yay. Good. Good, good, good.
All right. Colleen says, thank you, Tanya. Your partnership with MSU RCPD is invaluable.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Great. I don't see any others.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and end this slideshow then. Thank you again to everyone who came today. And again, you're welcome to reach out if you think of any questions later.